Hey everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to talk about the things that I read in September. Overall, it was a pretty good month, mostly 4 stars. I had a couple disappointments, so I'm going to start with those and end up with all my solid 4-star reads. So my first disappointment was The Farthest Shore by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is book 3 in the Earthsea series, and I had really liked book 2. Book 2 has been my favorite so far. Book 1 was good, kind of classic quest kind of story. And then book 2, I really enjoyed it. So each of these books in the series follow kind of a different main character, but then there is one character, this wizard character that kind of goes throughout all of them. So he's the main character in the first book, and then he shows up in all these other people's books. And I just really liked the main character in the second book. And this one, the main character that we're following this one, he just really doesn't have much personality at all. And the point of this one is, Earthsea is this big world where there's a bunch of islands in the sea. And in this one, they're traveling a lot, which is not one of my favorite things. Traveling books are not my favorite. And then the main character just being pretty bland. That truthfully, I got to the point where halfway through the book or something, I started listening to this on audiobook and sped it up and probably was not really listening that much. I really just want to get through this so I could get on to the next book. Because in the next book, the main character is the same main character from the second book. So I just wanted to get back to her being the main character. And so yeah, this was a disappointment. I gave it 2 stars. It probably should have been only 1 star since I don't really can't tell you. Obviously I'm not gonna tell you much about it anyway since the 30th series, but even if you had also read them and we were discussing them in detail, I probably couldn't say much about this because I would have DNF'd this if it wasn't part of a series. I was just kind of skim listening in order to finish it. But 2 stars, I just didn't find this captivating at all in the first half, and so I just zoomed through the second half. So that was my first disappointment. And then my other disappointment was an audiobook from an author I really have loved in the past. This was Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. Jen DeLuca wrote a series of romance books that took place at a Renaissance fair, and I really enjoyed all of those books. I think there was 4 books in that series. First one was Well Met. And I had liked all of those books, was excited to see she was coming out with a new series. This is going to be a series all taking place in this specific town. I think it's called Boneyard Key. And it's there are real ghosts. This is one of the hauntest towns in America. And ghosts play a prominent part. So this is more of a paranormal romance. And I don't know if it was that because I'm not necessarily a paranormal romance person, or if it was just the main characters did not pull me in their romance. I just didn't really like this much. I gave it 3 stars because it wasn't bad. There was nothing terrible about it. It just wasn't that interesting to me. The romance didn't really feel like it had a lot of chemistry. It's the main character is a woman who has kind of having a midlife crisis or quarter life crisis or whatever, and decides to just buy a house in a town that she's never visited before. I don't think she'd even seen the house. She just bought a house that was a price she could afford and moved to this town in Florida, finding out when she moved there that there were ghosts and that her house is haunted. And so in order to figure out what to do with this haunted house, she enlists the help of a guy from the local coffee shop where they start off on the wrong foot. Hate to love romance, but it just felt like the romance was not the main focus, even though there wasn't really much else happening. I don't know. It was hard to explain because it is a romance where the romance is the main plot, but didn't feel like it. So that is a weird way. So it didn't really pull me. I probably won't continue the series, but I still really like her Renaissance Festival series. And then now we're into my 4 stars. So only 2 disappointments. The rest of these are all 4 stars. I'll talk about the one I don't own since I'm already putting up a picture. So the next book I read, and this was a reread, I read Project 333 by Courtney Carver. And this is just about basically doing a wardrobe overhaul. I had read this, I can't remember how long ago. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. And it helped me to really get rid of a lot of stuff in my closet. And now that I have moved, I think I have moved twice in that, yeah, I've moved twice in the time since I have read it the first time. And so that I've had a lot of times where I have packed up my clothes and then had to unpack my clothes, and now I'm in a closet and dresser that this is the closet and dresser I'm going to have indefinitely because we're going to be living here probably for at least until after we're empty nesters. So it's gonna be a long time. So it's not like I should keep anything else that is like, just in case I have room for it. I can't be doing any of that anymore. I just need to get my clothing down to exactly what I need and fits in my space. And I just don't have a lot of space in this house, closet space. And so I reread this book knowing that it would help me get rid of some stuff. And basically this is her just like doing this project where for 3 months you pick 33 items for 3 months. That's what's called Project 333. And that is all you wear for those 3 months. And then you have like these small capsule wardrobes that can change by the season. Since I live in Minnesota, I'm not gonna do it exactly how she does it because she includes all of her like outer gear, like coats and boots and everything. But living in this area, you need a lot of winter gear. So I am gonna do this again where I have 33 pieces of clothing for the winter, but I'm not gonna count my outer gear. I'm just gonna count like, you know, my shirts and sweaters and pants and dresses and all that stuff. And so I think that'll help me like decide that this is my winter wardrobe of 33 items, and then I'll have like a summer wardrobe that as I'm packing away things that I'm not gonna be wearing for the next like 9 months, I'll be like, well, I didn't wear this at all this summer. I don't need it. Because especially in Duluth, we don't have very hot summers. So I don't really need a lot of like tank tops or shorts. Having like 2 pairs of shorts and 1 tank top is actually just fine here because it only gets in the 80s a few times during the summer. I guess this summer it got in the 80s more, but I also don't need to have a lot of variety in the summer. So now that we're moving seasons, I'm going to like get rid of a lot of my summer stuff that I didn't wear this summer and like decide what I really want to have as my winter staples. So that's what that book does. It helps me to like make these decisions. It might be something I listen to again in like 5 years if I find I've accumulated too many things. It's a really quick listen to. It's an audiobook. If you don't want to listen to it, you also could just go to her, like she has a blog that's Project 333 that would just tell you what she does, and you wouldn't even have to listen to it. But I think it was only like 5 or 6 hours at most. All right, and then the rest of these are books that I have physically. And the next one is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And this book was everywhere this year. It was really popular. I ended up buying this from Blackwell's in England because it was like $35 to buy this book here in America. And I was like, I'm not somebody that could spend $35 on a regular book. It needs to be a special edition if I'm gonna spend $35 on a book. So I couldn't buy it from my local bookstore. And so I ended up getting this one. So this was for 14 pounds. So whatever that is, it's definitely not $35. So that's where I ordered it from. And I really enjoyed this. This is kind of like a literary thriller. So when I say thriller, it's not gonna be like an American popcorn kind of thriller where there's a million twists and turns and stuff like that. It's kind of slow moving. There's a lot of people, but I don't think it's overly literary because I can't handle a thriller that's so literary that it's like all about the language and not really about the plot. This one is about the plot. It's about the characters. It's about what's happening, but it is a little more slow moving and bigger than kind of like a fast thriller. But I really enjoyed this. So this has a few different timelines, but in the current timeline, well, the current timeline is in the 1970s. Yeah, the 1970s is kind of like what is the current timeline, where there is a summer camp and a girl goes missing from the summer camp. And obviously it's a big deal if a kid goes missing, but it's an even bigger deal because 14 years later, her brother had gone missing. And so it's like now 2 kids from the same family have gone missing. What are the connections? What happened to both kids? And so we are following both of those timelines of like back in the 60s when her brother went missing and now in the 70s when she has gone missing. And we're also following some earlier timelines, kind of like her parents when they first get together and kind of like following the whole like kind of timeline of this family, what would have led to this moment in the 70s. And I like this because it really focuses on the women characters. So in the current timeline, we're really focused on the police detective who is a woman, the counselor who's a woman, the person that runs the camp, which is a woman, and the mother of the girl that's going missing. And we're really hearing their storylines and how, you know, when women have limited choices, sometimes that leads to things happening that maybe wouldn't have happened if they had had more choices. And so I liked kind of like that aspect of a thriller. I thought this was really interesting. I I was interested the whole time. I know I've read some people that say it's a bit slow in the middle. I didn't really feel that like that. I felt like, yes, it was a slow moving mystery. There weren't like, you know, jump scares or things happening all the time and twists and turns happening all the time. But there was always something that was like being shown to me that I was interested in. So I was interested the whole time, really wanted to find out what had happened to both kids. And I didn't fully predict everything. I do think there is a point where some of it is a little predictable, but not in the way that makes me upset. Like she was giving me enough information slowly that like it made sense that I knew what was happening when I did. It wasn't like I knew at like page 30 exactly what was going to happen at the end. So I thought that was really good. I think it's kind of worth the hype. Maybe not as much of the hype as it has, but I still thought it was a good book. And then another one I really enjoyed is Wild is the Witch by Rachel Griffin. And I have been like kind of in that fall kick, wanting to read more fall type books. Like this one, you know, has the like kind of mystery, even though it takes place at a summer camp, it feels like a fall book because of like the slow mystery. And this one is definitely like witchy vibes and I really enjoyed it. This is a young adult book, so but it's, for me, I don't always have been liking young adult books lately, but this one, the characters have already graduated from high school, so they're in that like college age, so I can handle it a lot more than sometimes contemporary young adult books where they're dealing with high school drama, so they don't have that kind of drama. So that was good for me. And this one has a lot of magic in it. So this is a world where there's kind of like 3 different types of witches. So there's witches that can like not control, but like can do things with nature, talk to animals, things like that. There are witches that can kind of, their magic is only like effective on humans. And now I can't think of what the third one is. Is it like just, I don't know. but because the witch we are following, she has the kind of magic where she can like talk to animals and connect to them and find out what's going on with them and like influencing them in their actions. So like if she was being chased by a bear, she could say like, she could calm the bear down and get it to walk away, that kind of thing. And she works at like a wildlife rescue place, which is really cool because then she could find out like why the animals are in distress or whatever and what's wrong with them. Like, oh, you have a broken wing, I can see that, even if we couldn't tell like medically. So I liked this form of magic. And this is also a world where people know there are witches and they interact with witches, and there's laws around what witches could do, especially the witches that can like affect humans. There's laws and what they can do. And this is another kind of like hate to love romance. It's very romance heavy. She's working with a boy, young man, I guess he's in college, that they don't get along at first, but then they have to go on an adventure together because she accidentally makes a curse that she had meant to just like blow the curse away and not have the curse take hold, but then an owl comes and swoops up the curse and ends up like flying off with the curse. So she has to chase down the owl, and this boy knows a lot about birds, and so they're able to like go after the cursed bird to try to make sure the curse doesn't get released. And I just really liked the amount of romance, the amount of magic. It was really good. I would like to read other things by Rachel Griffin. It also has a very cozy feel because so much of it was outside. There was a lot of hiking and camping. I really enjoyed this. Definitely will read more by the author. And the last one is something that I actually haven't completely finished. I am very close. Like, I think I have 100 pages left, which seems like a lot, but when the book is like 600 or 700 pages long, however this book is, I am like 80% of the way through the book. But this is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Diviner series. I had read the first book, I think, around this time last year, so it might be a year ago. If these books feel very fall to me, because even though they're like fantasy, they all have like more paranormal stuff going on than just fantasy. Like they're the powers that the diviners have, especially this one, it has a very creepy feel, and there's like mysteries involved. And so in this one, there's a lot of like dream magic, hence the Lair of Dreams, people that can walk in dreams. And the thing with this series that I am both enjoying, but also I'm like wondering if it's going to be too much for me to read over 4 books is that they keep adding new characters and new like main characters to follow. Like it's not just like one main character. In the first book, Evie was kind of like the main character, but then we kept adding new ones. And in this one, I would not call Evie the main character. I would say her plot line is very evenly split with some other groups of people. There's probably about 3 main plot lines that we are following, and those 3 kind of groups of people that we are following. So there's not really like one main character we keep adding, but because of that, that's why these books are so huge, because we are basically doing 3 books in one, because each of these plot lines, yes, they have things that are tying them together, but they're not interacting with each other very much at this point. I think that it's kind of like, yes, they're all going to tie together later, and probably their plot lines will come together in later books, or maybe in this last 100 pages I haven't read yet. But right now they're all kind of doing these groups are doing independent things, investigating and experiencing different plot lines, and they haven't quite come together yet. So that's why they're so long. And I feel like all of the rest of these books are gonna be this long. So I don't know if I'm gonna wait a whole other year and read it again next fall, or if I'm gonna try to continue, like, you know, it's just September. I'll be done with this. That's why I was going to do it in this wrap up, because I have been flying through this. Even though this is a 20-hour audiobook, I think I've only been listening to this for less than a week, and I only have like 4 hours left. So I feel like I'm going to be done by the end of September or first couple days of October. I'm like, I could read the next one in October and the last one in November and just get all of them done when it feels like very fall to read these. I think it's a 4-star because there are stuff about this series that I don't love. I don't love that even though it's interesting they're playing all these timelines and all these, not timelines, all these people in, it does get to be a bit much that there are so many people involved, and not just our main character, so many like little minor characters. So it does get a little complicated. And even though I'm enjoying the 1920s, like alternate 1920s timeline, the lingo that they definitely use like 20s slang, and it gets to be a bit much on the audiobook. Even though January Lavoie is the audiobook narrator, and she is an amazing narrator, especially with the amount of characters in this, it just is a lot to have all the 1920s slang being like told in my head, and it sounds a little cheesy after a while. So those are the things that keep it from being 5 stars, but definitely fully entertained enough that like I have not been reading a lot in the last several months and not doing much audiobook. Like basically my audiobooks have been stretched out for weeks, and this being a 20-hour audiobook that I am basically gonna finish in 1 week. Yeah, I've been like obsessively listening to this. Sometimes at work, I'm like, yes, I will stuff envelopes so that I can like listen to my audiobook while I do it. So yeah, I've been doing all the mundane tasks. My laundry's all done, you know, the dishes, the cleaning, all that stuff is happening this week because I just want to listen to this audiobook. So yeah, I'm figured I'll wrap it up because I think I'm going to have it finished in the next day. So that's it for me. Pretty solid month, mostly 4 stars, only a couple of disappointments. One with the Earthsea, I am going to continue that series because I think I'll like the next book better. But the Boneyard Key romance, paranormal romance series, I'm not going to continue that. I really want to stick with only continuing series that I think I'm going to enjoy. Even if I have like a disappointing one book, I feel like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm giving myself full permission to really DNF series because I'm not doing the greatest at finishing series, but I am proud of myself that I continued this series because they are such big books. I thought I wouldn't do it, but I did. So that's at least like 2 of these are continuing series. Great. I'm feeling good about that. I know that some of that was inspired by Krista and Sarah, who are doing series September. And though I only did, I guess 3 of these books are in series. So I did pretty well with series September, the readathon that they were doing. But it also just kind of like, oh yeah, series, I should be reading those. So them doing that readathon kind of prompted me to pick up these. And I've been happy with what I'm reading now, and what I still have books that I'm in the middle of. I have 2 books that are ongoing other than the Libere series, the Diviner series, and those I am enjoying as well. So yeah, I feel like my reading is taking an upturn lately. So that's it for me today. I'll see you next time. Bye.